So it's been over 2 months since Kirby Air Riders was revealed, and during the reveal, I had a simple question on my mind, which was, how is it real? And I am still pondering that question all this time later, because quite frankly, every single bone in my body was telling me that Kirby Air Ride would never ever get a sequel. So I figured I'd ramble just a little bit about how insane this is to me, and speculate a little bit as to how the heck Kirby Air Riders actually has come into existence. Because again, deep down in the depths of my soul, I practically knew it, almost as if it was fact, that there was no way anyone at charge at Nintendo or HAL would ever decide to make a sequel to Kirby Air Ride. And yet, here it is. So I'll start by talking a bit about my history with the original game and why I have wanted a sequel for so long. I'm not sure exactly when it was that I got Kirby Air Ride, but it would have been sometime between Christmas 2004 and November 2007. And I know this because I have a journal entry from November 2007, when I was 9 years old, where I write about how I became the self-proclaimed Kirby Air Ride champion because I was able to win City Trial 3 times in a row. And I even drew a little trophy that says Kirby Air Ride on it. So this game is something that I was obsessed with pretty quickly after picking it up. And I mean, it was a go-to amongst me and my siblings and my cousin and even some friends that were in the neighborhood I lived in as a kid. City Trial is a mode that we've all enjoyed growing up, and even now, it's still something that we pick up every so often when we're all together, when we have an opportunity to play together. About 20 years later, we're still having a lot of fun with it. So of course, as a little kid who liked a thing, I wanted more. I wanted a sequel. And as I got older, as my tastes in video games became more refined, and as I started to realize that not every game that I like needs a sequel, my desire for Kirby Air Ride to get a sequel just got even stronger, because I started being able to pinpoint all the things, all the reasons why I like Kirby Air Ride so much, and how much untapped potential that game has. Like, just think about the fact that me and my friends have been continuing to play City Trial almost 20 years since we started, and there's only one map. There's very little content in the mode, and yet the way it's designed allows it to stay so fresh. I can't help but imagine how much more replayability an expanded version of City Trial would have. So as the years marched on, I have continued hoping for a sequel, but the years have also beat down on my hope for an actual sequel to be made. There was a point where I really thought that it was possible, Nintendo could do it, but over time, I started kind of realizing, like, it's not gonna happen. I'll keep joking about it because it's kind of like a personality trait at this point. And it is something that I legitimately want, but it's never gonna happen. And I'll tell you, the worst moment, I think the moment that really knocked me down the hardest was the Rosalina reveal trailer for Super Smash Bros. 4. For those who don't remember or maybe didn't realize what the trailer looked like to someone like me who has always hoped for a Kirby Air Ride sequel, they segued into this reveal trailer without saying what it was. So it was just a fade to black, and then it started. And what does it start with? It starts with Kirby riding a star with the Kirby Air Ride theme playing. Like, straight up, the music that plays when you first boot up Kirby Air Ride. They put it there in the trailer, and for a very brief moment, I thought, this is it. They're actually doing it. 10 years after the original game's released, they're finally making Kirby Air Ride 2. And then all of a sudden, there's Rainbow Road and Mario Kart characters, and I was like, what the heck's happening? Where's Kirby Air Ride? What's happening to Kirby Air Ride? And then I remember that when I was watching, the video froze and it started buffering. And then all of a sudden, when the video finally loaded and caught back up, it was just Rosalina and Smash Bros. And I was just kind of sitting there screaming and being like, what happened? Where's Kirby Air Ride 2? What is this? So that was insane, because I was literally this moment where I felt the excitement of Kirby Air Ride actually being announced, because in that moment, I truly thought that was what was happening. And then it was ripped away from me, and all we got is Rosalina and Smash Bros. Oh boy. And I think it was at that point where deep down I started really realizing, like, nope, it's never gonna happen. Kirby Air Ride it's not gonna get a sequel. Why would they make a sequel to Kirby Air Ride? There have been a few glimmers of hope since then, like Smash Run, for example. I actually remember predicting Smash Run on a forum somewhere, because again, I was full of cope, and I was like, well, if we're not gonna make new Kirby Air Ride, well, maybe they'll put City Trial in Smash Bros. And then, so that was fun. That was really cool, because I remember watching that be revealed during a Nintendo Direct, and I saw the stat boost, and I was like, that looks kind of like the stat boost from City Trial. And then Sakurai was just straight up like, yeah, I took this mode out of Kirby Air Ride, it's basically just City Trial for Smash. So that was an exciting time. Smash Run, unfortunately, doesn't quite live up to City Trial. It's missing some really important elements, but it was still a lot of fun. But anyways, all that brings us to April 2nd, 2025, when an unsuspecting Micah McGonigal sat down to watch the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. And look, if there was any time in my life where I did not really expect Kirby Air Ride 2 to be announced during a Nintendo Direct, it was the first Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. I'm sure many of you have seen the reaction video that I uploaded, and you saw how much I was joking about Kirby Air Ride getting a sequel. But the reality is, the only real Kirby Air Ride I thought we would see that day was if they were adding it to the Switch Online GameCube app. Never. If I had known that a Kirby Air Ride sequel was in the works, I never would have expected it to have been one of the big final announcements for the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. I never would have thought Nintendo would have given a Kirby Air Ride sequel the spotlight like that. But of course, when it was finally announced, I didn't even believe it at first. Because watching that reveal trailer, my initial thought was, this looks kind of like it could be a Kirby Air Ride thing, but I know it's not. I've learned my lesson after what happened last time with Rosalina. This isn't Kirby Air Ride. Don't get excited about it being Kirby Air Ride until it is 100% certain that that is what you are looking at. So for the first several moments of that trailer, I was just kind of watching it, expecting to see something interesting, but not Kirby Air Ride. And then when the boosters appeared on the star, that was when my brain started getting really confused. That was when I was just kind of being all like, okay, what's happening? Because this is getting really Kirby Air Ride-esque now, but surely it's not actually that. And then the star boosted forward, just like in Kirby Air Ride. And I was still just like, nah, no. And then a track appeared, and I was still just shaking my head like this could be Kirby Happy-Go-Lucky Race Game. This could be an entirely new Kirby racing game that has nothing to do with Kirby Air Ride. It wasn't until the wheelie bike showed up, and then all the other stars, where I realized it was undeniable that this was the Kirby Air Ride sequel I had been waiting about 20 years for. And of course, at that point, I just totally lost my mind. That was a moment that I never really thought would come. But it's very surreal now that that moment is behind me, because it's something I've thought about several times, something I've kind of imagined, like, oh, what would it be like? How would they announce the Kirby Air Ride sequel? How would they hype it up? And that's it. That's how they do it. I've seen it now. I know the answer. What I don't know the answer to is, how is it real? How did this end up actually getting made? Because again, I didn't actually think any of the important parties in this scenario would bother to make this game. Why, you might be asking? Maybe you're not familiar with Kirby Air Ride, maybe you're not familiar with its success or its lack thereof. So I'll go over those details. Kirby Air Ride released in 2003 on the GameCube, of course, and it released to incredibly average reviews. Most critics found it to be very middling gameplay-wise. They mostly focused on the normal racing mode, the Air Ride mode, and I personally kind of agree that Air Ride, if you're just playing it for the racing mode, is just an okay experience. If you ever talk to somebody who is a big fan of Kirby Air Ride, most of the time they're going to tell you that City Trial is the highlight, and that is my opinion as well. City Trial is the only mode me and my friends really spent a ton of time playing. We also actually did spend a decent chunk of time playing Top Ride. Usually that was a fun thing we'd play after spending an hour playing City Trial. We'd then cool down with some Top Ride. Top Ride's fun too, but City Trial it's just really, really good. But the game being marketed as a racing game, the critics reviewed it as a racing game, which I think is fair. But regardless of whether or not they should have reviewed the game as low as they did, or if they should have ignored City Trial as much as they did, doesn't change the fact that the game had very average review scores. And in terms of success, it sold about 1 million copies worldwide, I believe, which for a GameCube title wasn't terrible, but it's nothing to write home about either. So I just looked up a list of all the best-selling GameCube games, and Kirby Air Ride is the 25th bestseller. So again, that's pretty good, but it also does appear to fall below most of Nintendo's first-party efforts. Then there is the fact that Kirby Air Ride is a racing game, and we all know Mario Kart tends to be the only racing franchise Nintendo really cares about these days. They make a Mario Kart for their console, and then they're good as far as racing goes. They might do occasional little side games like F-Zero 99, or I believe they brought Cruisin' to the Switch a few years back. But Nintendo doesn't have a whole lot of reason to make racers outside of Mario Kart. Or at least it seems like they don't think they do. I think they absolutely should make all sorts of different kinds of racers, but that's another discussion. So with all that in mind, why would Nintendo or HAL look at Kirby Air Ride, this 20-year-old game that got very average reviews and sold very averagely? Why on earth would they ever say, yeah, let's make a new one of those? And that's the main reason why I never thought it would happen. But it's happened. So how did it happen? Because I still don't think Nintendo or HAL would have requested this. So this is the part of the video where I'm going to just go into pure speculation, but I think the reason that this happened is primarily because of Masahiro Sakurai. I think the only logical explanation for this existing is that he was given an opportunity to do what he wanted, and he picked this. Again, this is pure speculation. I could be completely wrong. Nintendo may have very well, for some reason, asked him to make a sequel to this game. Maybe they saw the cult following and all the people who talk about how good City Trial is, and realized that there's potential to make a big new multiplayer party racing game, assuming that this new Kirby Air Ride has City Trial in it, because that hasn't been confirmed yet. Maybe somebody at Nintendo is just personally a fan, and they asked Sakurai to make it. But I think the most likely answer here is just that Sakurai wanted to do it. We actually do have a few clues that I think are in favor of this, thanks to Sakurai's YouTube channel. In one of his final videos, he discusses how, when he was nearing completion of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, he received a request to write a game proposal, which he says he completed at lightning speed, or at least that's how the English translation words it. We don't know exactly what the nature of the request was, but I figure there are two possibilities. Either Nintendo requested a specific kind of game, or HAL. Perhaps they requested that Sakurai create a proposal for a Kirby Air Ride sequel. But the other option, and the one that I think is more likely, is that Nintendo gave Sakurai an invite to propose whatever game he wanted to make. Again, this is speculation, but I feel like that's what makes the most sense. And knowing that Sakurai wrote this proposal at lightning speed, and that it ended up being the proposal for a Kirby Air Ride sequel. That's really exciting. Going off of what Sakurai has discussed in this video, this seems like a project that he's very excited about. And that makes me very excited, because if there's anyone that I trust to get this sequel right, it's Sakurai. For those who may not know, Sakurai directed the original Kirby Air Ride as well. So he's one of the only people I would really trust to maintain what made the original so good, especially when it comes to City Trial. And even considering stuff like Smash Run in Smash Bros. For 3DS, I get the impression that City Trial is something Sakurai wants to revisit. I sure hope it is, because if we get more details about Kirby Air Riders and find out that there is no City Trial, I will admittedly be very disappointed. That's not to say I wouldn't still try it out, but City Trial is really the thing that I have wanted a sequel to. To get back on topic though, there is, I think, one other possibility kind of in between the two I gave earlier regarding the proposal situation. I listened to an episode of IGN's Nintendo Voice Chat podcast a little bit ago, the episode where they discussed Kirby Air Riders, and one of the members of the podcast brought up an interesting point. And that is that in Sakurai's video on the original Kirby Air Ride, where he goes in depth about its development, he talks about why the team at HAL decided to make a racing game, and that was because they felt that developing a racing game would be relatively quick compared to other genres. In the Nintendo Voice Chat podcast, someone brought up the possibility that maybe the reason Sakurai is making a Kirby Air Ride sequel for the Switch 2, as a title that is releasing within the first year of the Switch 2, could be because it's a relatively quick game to make compared to other genres. It could be that the request for a proposal was not an open request for Sakurai to pose anything he wanted, but rather a specific request for Sakurai to produce a game that could release within the first year of the Switch 2. Now, of course, that still assumes Sakurai still believes that a racing game is relatively fast to develop. It's entirely possible his opinion on that has changed since the original Kirby Air Ride, but we don't know. All we know is that Kirby Air Riders is real, and it's coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. Possibly this year, but I'm not sure I believe them since I haven't even shown footage of it yet. But here's hoping it's not going to be too much longer before we get to see some gameplay. Hey, thanks for watching, or I guess listening to me ramble about Kirby Air Ride for several minutes. I know this probably isn't something anyone who is subscribed to this channel was expecting, but I have a need to ramble about Kirby Air Ride. For a long time, I've had a little bit of an interest in doing YouTube stuff, and doing video essays, that kind of thing, simpler YouTube content. But I've never actually gone through with any of it. So of course, if there was anything that was actually gonna get me to record and upload a video just for fun, is gonna be a Kirby Air Ride sequel. There's a lot of stuff I want to talk about regarding Kirby Air Riders. I kind of just want to make a log of this strange time between its announcement and its release. I want to share my thoughts as we get more news about the game. I want to share my predictions and my wish list. So stay tuned. I might do more of these videos about Kirby Air Ride. I might end up becoming a Kirby Air Riders YouTuber. I don't know. That sounds like it could be fun. So depending on how I'm feeling, I might do more of these videos in the near future, or I might just completely lose interest and stop immediately after this first video. We'll see. As of right now, this is just something that I'm totally only going to do if I feel like it, if I'm having fun doing it. So I'm not going to make any promises or big plans for the future of my channel. But regardless, if you enjoyed this video, you can leave a like or you can leave a comment. I'd be very curious to see what all of you think about Kirby Air Riders. What do you all think about the fact that it exists at all? Because I don't think it's still fully sunk in yet that there really is a sequel to Kirby Air Ride. Wow.